Hey, everybody, welcome to the channel that takes you deep inside the San Francisco 49ers. I am your host, Jack Hammer, here at Levi Stadium, where today the 49ers began preparations for their Week 4 matchup with the Arizona Cardinals. Got a chance to be in the room today with Kyle Shanahan during his press conference. Kyle Shanahan really looking forward to this game against the Arizona Cardinals. Says that the Cardinals are a team much better than their 1-2 record, a team that could be 3-0 right now if not for a couple of things going against them. So the 49ers getting after it today. We're going to get into the 49ers preparations. We're going to also be getting into an update regarding DEEBO Samuel and the 49ers overall health going into this game. They're getting a little bit dinged up more so today than they've been at any point so far this season. So let's go ahead and let's get started right there. The 49ers injury report today. DEEBO Samuel is on that injury report. DEEBO Samuel not practicing with the team today. According to Kyle Shanahan, he has a rib injury and also a knee injury. The rib injury we were aware of. We knew about that already. That was reported directly after the game and in the conference call the day following. The knee injury for DEEBO Samuel, that just popped up today. According to Kyle Shanahan, that was something that hadn't really been bothering him all that much right after the game. It kind of came up as the weekend went along. And so DEEBO Samuel also missing practice today with a knee injury. Right now, we're not sure what his likelihood is that he's going to be able to play on Sunday. I think he's most likely going to be able to go. But again, DEEBO Samuel out today with a rib. We knew that from the game. And then also knee injury. The ribs, I think that comes from that play that he caught the little slant, running up the middle, got tackled, landed on the football. That's where the rib injury came from. We're not sure exactly where that knee injury came from. So that's that one there. Also, Jauan Jennings did not practice today. He was out of practice. He has an issue with his shin, so he was not out there. He was working on the side field, though. Did get a chance to see him working on the side a little bit. Same with Dre Greenlaw, the 49ers linebacker. He missed practice today as well. He is dealing with an ankle injury. He also was working on a side field today during the portion of practice open to the media. So DEEBO Samuel out for today, rib injury, knee injury. Jauan Jennings out with a shin. Dre Greenlaw dealing with an ankle injury. They're all out. As far as the players that were limited participants today, Ambry Thomas, he was a limited participant last week with that knee injury that sidelined him for the game against the Giants. He injured that knee early on against the Rams. He was a limited participant in practice today, as was Brandon Ayuk, the wide receiver back at practice. He was actually out on Monday during the 49ers bonus practice. But today, again, on the field was Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk wearing a blue non-contact jersey. So Ayuk not participating fully in practice. He was on a limited basis. That blue non-contact, obviously, exactly what it says. You can't touch him. He's able to do everything else on the field. Was able to do a couple of, we got to see him running routes, catching the ball from quarterback Brock Purdy. So that was positive. But no, the practice overall limited for Ayuk. I would expect that we're going to see him on Sunday as well. Really quick, want to shout out the notorious GAV, a member of the Toolbox. That's why there's a $ next to his name. He's asking you to juice that like button. Please do that. Also, Raphael 562niners, another member of the Toolbox, says, "What's up, Jack?" Members of the Toolbox and everyone. Good to have you on board, Raphael. And he also wants to make sure that y'all remember to like and subscribe as well. So, you look at practice today, and one other player was limited for the 49ers today. That would be Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, the linebacker. He was limited in participant or listed as a limited participant today, also with an ankle injury. Same thing as Dre Greenlaw. And then when the final practice report comes out, I expect we'll probably also see Trent Williams on that list. Trent Williams typically doesn't practice on the first day of preparations. The Wednesday practice, he usually sits that out as a veteran rest day. So I would expect that we'll see that. Just a couple of interesting notes from today. Also, the 49ers made some big changes to their practice squad. Notice this in the locker room. The team didn't announce it until after the media availability in the locker room was completed. But the 49ers added 3 new players to their practice squad, and they released one. So yesterday, you probably saw the report that the 49ers had released tight end Troy Fumagalli and added running back Jeremy McNichols to their practice squad. Well, today, Jeremy McNichols on the road again. He's had a couple of short stints with the 49ers. He was here a little bit during training camp, got released. He was brought back shortly for just a couple of days. One day, really, brought back yesterday, released today. Jeremy McNichols hitting the road, and in comes safety Trey Norwood, cornerback Kendall Sheffield, and tight end Jake Tongas. Norwood was originally drafted by the Steelers in the 7th round of the 2021 draft. He was actually taken 245th overall. He's played 2 years in the NFL with the Steelers. He's appeared in 32 games, making 6 starts for them. He registered 55 tackles, 4 passes defensed, and an interception. Also has appeared in 1 postseason game where he finished with 2 tackles. And then last season, he appeared in 15 games, making 3 starts and tallied 20 tackles. He was released by the Steelers during those late cuts in August 29th to be exact. So Trey Norwood, a nice safety. It's an interesting addition for the 49ers, who already have good safety play with both Tayshaun Gibson and Talon Hufanga in the starting secondary. And then behind that have a good group as well. So that's just an interesting move to add a safety to their practice squad. But again, you got to keep filling that group out, keep building it up, trying to make it the best that you can. So it makes sense that they would go in that direction. Also, other players that the 49ers added today, if we look at those really quick, on the corner, like I mentioned, Kendall Sheffield. Sheffield was drafted by the Falcons in the 4th round back in 2019. He's played in 38 games, making 20 starts. He's tallied 9 tackles, 7 passes defense, and forced a couple of fumbles. He was waived by the Falcons in May, claimed off of waivers by the Texans a few days later, then waived injured by Houston on August 20th. Later went on the Cowboys practice squad, and then spent the remainder of that season. This year, he signed a 1-year deal with the Texans in March, was released on August 13th. He's out of Ohio State University, the Ohio State University, where he played for 2 seasons after transferring from a junior college. Sheffield, a guy who, again, has been around the NFL, bounced around for the most part, though, 38 games, likely not going to see a whole lot of action. Most likely just a guy that they're bringing in to evaluate, have a little bit of depth there as well. So that's an interesting one. And then tight end, they brought in a tight end. They released Troy Fumagalli, a veteran, but they bring in a guy that is another tight end, a guy that's local as well, by the name of Jake Tongas. Tongas entered the NFL last season as an undrafted free agent. He signed with the Chicago Bears. He went on to appear in 4 games with Chicago last season. Was released back in November, then signed to the practice squad 2 days later, where he spent the rest of the season. He then was with the Bears during training camp, released on August 17th. He's a local guy, like I said. He's just 24 years old, from Los Gatos, attended UC Berkeley, where he played for 5 seasons, 41 games, including 23 starts, recording 47 receptions for 620 yards and 4 touchdowns. Tongas actually made the Bears roster last year, not as a tight end, but as a fullback. So an interesting one there, because the Flyers already have 2 really good fullbacks, Kyle Juszczyk and Jack Coletto, 2 really good fullbacks. Now you get Tongas, another one in there, likely just to help with depth again for their practice squad, get them built up as they're starting to find teams that play similar style to them in terms of having fullbacks. It's good to have multiple guys in those roles. Also with the 49ers, when you look at the fact that they didn't have a practice squad guy after releasing from Fumagalli, so that makes sense there. So good stuff. I want to shout out Abba Marsalis. He's a great dude. Guy follows my channel constantly, continually, making sure that he comments on a regular basis after the shows, tells me how boring I am. Thank you. I really appreciate it for you to make the time to come in and watch it. Thanks for the comment. I appreciate it. Again, Portola 45, Jake from Los Gatos. That's right. From Los Gatos. I don't know if he played for the Wildcats or not. That would be interesting if he did that, but we know that he went to Berkeley, he was there for 5 seasons. And the 49ers, again, just really reshaping their practice squad in a big way. You know, you look at it again, I mentioned the safety that they brought in. This is the guy who in Norwood, Trey Norwood, a 7th round pick, but he stuck with the Steelers, 32 games, 9 starts in his career, or 6 starts in his career, 3 in 2021, 3 last season, 55 tackles, 4 passes defense, and interception. It's just an interesting one, like I said, because you already have Gibson, you have Hufanga, and then behind them you already have Jair Brown and George Odom. Odom, one of the best special teams players in the NFL. That's why he was an All-Pro with that last season. So I'm not quite sure exactly what the thought process was there, other than just to add another depth piece, maybe not have to use your guys like Odom and Brown so much on your practice squad. Remember, the Flyers had lost a guy to the Arizona Cardinals, Quantrez Knight, who was kind of a tweener between cornerback and safety. So maybe that's why this move was made to add another safety back to the practice squad. From practice today, a couple of things that were of interesting note. I mentioned already, there was no contact, the blue no contact jersey for Brandon Ayuk at practice. One of the really cool things that I saw today at practice was, um, it's one thing for you to have all pros on the team. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Trent Williams, these guys that are the top of their game. Well, today during the warm-up period, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, working by themselves as the quarterbacks were doing their warm-ups and special team period was going on. Nick Bosa and Fred Warner working together, talking a lot about pass rush techniques. Bosa teaching them some of those techniques and then demonstrating them for Fred Warner. Then Warner got in there, did a couple of those by himself to try to get it up and going. So I just thought that was interesting. Two guys that are at the top of their profession, and Nick Bosa and Fred Warner working together to improve themselves. That's something that this team, does. One of the things that was asked quite often today during the open session of the locker room was about Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, both signing extensions. Those extensions made public on, I believe it was Friday. Those extensions were made public. But here's the thing. They were actually done. The extension for John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, that extension was actually done prior to week 1 of the regular season. It wasn't announced until last week, but they actually signed that extension before the game in Pittsburgh for week 1. And, there's been a lot of talk about different things this year with regards to the 49ers roster, the quarterback mistake that they made, trading three first-round draft picks for a quarterback and not working out. Then they stick with Brock Purdy. The monumental mistake that the 49ers made by trading up. And there had been some folks that were maybe questioning whether or not whether or not Jed York was really upset about the fact that he allowed them to make that move. It didn't work out, all those kind of things. And I find it interesting, the fact that just shortly after they made that move, not only is it okay by the owner, but he extends them for more years. As somebody pointed out, if this thing goes through for Kyle Shanahan and he's able to be successful and make it through the entire term of his contract, he will have coached for a longer period of time with the 49ers than Bill Walsh. So, I just think it's interesting that you listen to the players talk. And the one thing that's a common thread amongst every guy that was asked today, Nick Bosa, Tayshaun Gibson, Fred Warner, a couple of other players in the locker room were asked, what is it about Kyle Shanahan that makes him such a good coach? And everybody said the same thing, basically, was that Kyle Shanahan, they don't lie to you. They tell you the truth. What they tell you, you can take at face value, because they're not going to tell you something just as fluff. They do a good job of telling you what they think, staying with it, and just being upfront and honest with them. And that's a good deal. That's one of the reasons why I think it's made so much sense for them to make that extension done. It's one of the things that I've noticed with Kyle Shanahan as well, is that the players play for him. And if a guy's not doing what he's telling you he's going to do, they're not going to play for you. In order for guys to really get behind you and play even when you're struggling, like they did in 2020, 2018, 2017, when this team was down, those teams played really hard for Kyle Shanahan. And the reason why is because Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch combined, they are very good at making sure that they follow through with what they tell these players that they're going to do. And like we saw with the deal with not Jimmy Garoppolo, but Jimmy Ward last season, right? Jimmy Ward, a guy that was a veteran, a fan favorite, a team favorite amongst the guys in the locker room. He gets injured, gets replaced by Tayshaun Gibson. When it's time to come back, Kyle Shanahan tells him, look, you can play in the slot or you can sit on the bench. It's up to you. But Tayshaun Gibson's going to be our starting safety moving forward. And then so he's got to go out and do something different. I'm talking about Jimmy Ward there. Tayshaun Gibson mentioning that today in the media session in the locker room, stating how when he was brought in, there was no guarantees of playing time. There was no guarantees he was going to even make the roster. that he'd have to come in, but he would be given an opportunity to make the most of it. And depending on how well he performed, that would determine how much he was going to be on the field. And we all know how well Tayshaun Gibson played last year. Went out, played at a very high level. One of the top guys on the team in terms of turnovers. Tayshaun Gibson, Talanoa, a big reason for the change around on that defense. You actually had some playmakers on the back end of the defense, not just guys who make tackles, but guys that would go out and actually turn the ball over. And that was huge. That was a big difference for the 49ers in 2022 compared to 2021. Imagine if Talanoa or Tayshaun Gibson were in that game, in the NFC Championship game down in Los Angeles, when Matthew Stafford threw the ball right to the safety in the middle of the field. Instead of it being if they had caught that, if one of them was out there and it was interception, which we've seen them do over and over again, I think the 49ers likely win that game because they already had the lead. They would have gotten the ball around midfield about their own 35, 40-yard line. But I just think it totally would have changed the complexion of that game if it had been made. And that's the one thing with the previous safeties is neither Jimmy Ward nor Jaquiski Tartt were very good at turning the ball over. They were good players, make tackles, but they didn't turn the ball over. They didn't make those big explosive types of plays. And as we talked about yesterday on the video that I had on here yesterday, the 49ers this season and last have been all about explosive plays, about limiting them on defense, making them on offense. And it's a big piece of it. Tayshaun Gibson really playing well. We have Piff Daddy 420 says, Joe, I got a question. What exactly is a walkthrough? I hear them talking about this, but I have no idea what this actually means. Thanks. Well, think about what it says. It says walkthrough, right? So a walkthrough means that they are walking through practice. So it's not quite walking, but it's in between a walk and a regular practice, not even a jog, really. They're lightly jogging through plays. They get out there. The 49ers during training camp always did a walkthrough period prior to the start of practice because they have so many players. They would walk through some plays that they were going to run that day. And so what that means is they just line up and think of if you if you're watching a game and you hit slow motion, that's kind of a walkthrough. They're running their plays, but they're not running, right? They're like this, right? Walking through. That's all you're doing. So it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, that's what it is. A walkthrough is you're just going through the plays, going through what you're going to be doing in that game. It can be out on the field. If you're on the road, it might be in a hotel lobby or ballroom or something like that. It just really depends. But the walkthrough is what they'll do. Typically, a walkthrough could be right before practice or even now because they only have the one practice. Like today, they have a practice right now that's taking place. It's almost wrapping up. That's what we got to see the beginning of that I'm talking about. But earlier in the day, they actually have a walkthrough practice. Then they go and they have their meetings, do all their stuff, and then they go out and they have the regular practice later in the day. So that's a typical day in the NFL for the 49ers. So hopefully that made sense to you. Exactly. Just think of it as a slow-paced. It's just a slow-paced practice is really all that it is. Cal Bear 949. Any thoughts regarding trade rumors? Do you think the 49ers make moves at the deadline? I think that they may. I don't expect it to be a blockbuster type. I know I saw, Patrick Surtain II is a name that keeps getting brought up. Those types of names. I don't know if I would expect to see the 49ers make a big move of that nature in terms of when it comes to the trade deadline. The 49ers, in order to trade that up, you've got to either trade you got to trade draft picks. It's going to take a lot of draft picks, or it's going to take somebody off your roster. I don't think the 49ers want to really mess with this roster in terms of taking players off of it. If they can add to it, that's fine. I also don't think that they really want to use up very much of their cap space either. Notorious Gav saying that no trades, roll over the cap, pay Ayuk, Kinlaw, extend juice, and all those types of things. But that's the other part of it too, right? They've got to go out and that money that they have from all those restructurings they did. Yeah, they have a ton of cap space right now, but by rolling that over, it gives them about $4 to $5 million on next year's cap. Then they can go into there and they can restructure players again and build it back up. I don't expect them, if they make a move, I don't expect it to be for anybody that's going to be expensive. I think what we've seen so far, just adding guys at the back end of the roster is really all we're going to see. Devontae, Moonman wants to know about the Devontae trade. Uh, Devontae Adams, I think they're talking about here. I guess, but you've already got, a Devontae Adams trade doesn't make sense for the 49ers because of the expenses that what it would cost them. From a player standpoint, it'd be great to add Devontae Adams to this roster, but you only have one football. You've already got Brandon Ayuk and DEEBO Samuel, two really good wide receivers. Juwan Jennings, a really nice third down receiver that's likely not going to be here next year. Ronnie Bell will likely step into that role next season. I just don't expect them to make a big trade at all. I think they might make one, but it's not going to be anything major like that. Andrew says maybe trade running back depth for a draft pick. Yeah, that could be the possibility, but I don't even see them wanting to make a trade. Yes, Ty Davis Price has been a healthy scratch so far, but we know that the issues at that position have been long for the 49ers, especially behind, I know Christian McCaffrey's been healthy, knock on wood so far, but, Elijah Mitchell has dealt with stuff, and I don't think the 49ers really want to get themselves into that situation where they were back in 2021, where they're pulling guys off of the scrap heap to fill in the running back spot. So I really don't, again, I just don't see them really making a big move. Even, Andrews also says Detroit, no, not that one. It was Cal Bear saying Chandler Jones or another defensive end. Yeah, maybe another defensive end, but even then, I don't really, again, the 49ers have, I think, what was it I saw today? 79 pressures through the first 3 weeks of the season. And when you talk about pressures, total pressures, that includes sacks, hurries, quarterback hits. They've done that 79 times through the first 3 games, according to Pro Football Focus. I don't think that the 49ers feel it's as big of an issue as the fans do. I think the 49ers like it where they are. I agree with them. I think they're doing a really nice job up front. They're doing a good job of stopping the run, which is forcing teams to throw. And then, they've shown the ability to get up on you, get tight, and then generate pressure. Nick Bosa with 15 pressures, Javon Hargrave with 13, Javon Kinlaw, I think, has 12, Eric Armstead and Drake Jackson both with 10. So they're getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They're actually putting bodies around the quarterback at a pretty high rate. I don't see them needing to go out and make a big move, even for a defensive lineman. Texas Niner, Jack, I have just one question. Can you start over? Just for you, Texas Niner. Let's go back into it real quick. I don't know if you saw the beginning, but I will really quick. Let's hit the 49ers injury report one more time. DEEBO Samuel out today, dealing with rib injury and knee injury. The knee injury was a new one that just popped up today. According to Kyle Shanahan, they weren't aware of that until today as well, or sometime after practice on Monday is when it became apparent to them. Juwan Jennings, the wide receiver, out today. He's dealing with a shin issue. Dre Greenlaw out with an ankle injury. As far as limited participants, we got to see a little bit of Jennings and Greenlaw working on the side field. I didn't see DEEBO working it out at all today. Ambry Thomas, Brandon Ayuk returned to practice today on a limited basis, along with Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. Thomas dealing with the knee, Ayuk with the shoulder, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles with the ankle. Brandon Ayuk out there wearing the blue non-contact jersey, exactly like it says. No contact, don't hit him. But he was able to get out there, run around, was doing a good job running routes with the quarterbacks, making the catches, and the ball just doesn't touch the ground. That's the one thing that's really impressive compared to last season. Early on during the first couple of weeks of practice, the ball would touch the ground a little bit, just in throwing the ball against air. Just that doesn't happen anymore. With Brock Purdy, the ball's always hitting the receivers, and they're usually making the catches. Just it's just the overthrown balls and the balls in the dirt. We just don't see those during the warm-up period of practice like we did in 2021 and 2022. So there's a little bit of a difference there for sure. The recent ads went over that, Texas Niner. Those recent ads, give it to you one more time. Safety Trey Norwood was added to the practice squad along with cornerback Kendall Sheffield, tight end Jake Tongas. Norwood, originally a 7th-round pick of the Steelers. Sheffield was a 4th-round pick of the Falcons back in 2019. He's bounced around the NFL. He's only played 38 games. And then Tongas entered the NFL last year as an undrafted free agent. Made it onto the Chicago Bears 53-man roster to open the season as a fullback, and then was released in November, signed to the practice squad where he spent the rest of the season. He was then with them during training camp, released on the 17th, now joining the 49ers here. He's from Los Gatos, so he's a local guy here to the Bay Area, and we'll see how all that plays out and what that means for the 49ers moving forward. I don't expect any of these guys to be stepping up to take roster spots, but they're always positive guys in terms possibilities in terms of being elevated to the active roster for a game, depending on the needs. We've seen that in the past. One thing really quick also, you look at you look around the NFL, you look at where the 49ers are, and the deal with Brock Purdy, right? He's won his first 8 NFL starts. First 8 NFL starts since taking over for the 49ers back in week 13 against the Miami Dolphins. He's thrown 20 touchdown passes and just 3 interceptions. But again, those 8 consecutive starts, that's a big deal. Now, here's the thing. The NFL record for consecutive starts to a career is held by Ben Roethlisberger. You might remember Roethlisberger won 13 games his rookie season in a row. They went to the AFC Championship game to the Steelers before they lost there. But then in the regular season the following year, they won their first 2 games before losing in week 3. So Ben Roethlisberger currently holds the NFL regular season record for starts without a loss at 15. For Brock Purdy, he's now up to 8. If he's going to get to 15, that means that Brock Purdy needs to, and the 49ers need to stay undefeated through Thanksgiving. That's right, you heard me right. Through Thanksgiving to break the record. The week before, it's a home game. That would tie the record, but in order to get the 16 consecutive wins to start his career, Brock Purdy and the 49ers would need to run the table. They would need to get to 11-0 on this regular season, and that 11th win in a row would be up in Seattle against the Seahawks. So just an interesting thing to take a look right now. Greg Khan says that Mahomes is the only quarterback I'd take over Purdy right now. Yeah, we hear so much about this, and quarterback wins has been such a topic for a while now, and I don't buy into it all. My thought is quarterback wins are a team stat, right? Quarterbacks get the wins next to their name, but it's a team stat. But at the same time, the teams that win the most tend to have the best quarterbacks. So yeah, there's not quarterback wins isn't just a quarterback stat, but you need to have a good quarterback in order to win. Even Jimmy Garoppolo, and you can say what you want about Jimmy Garoppolo, he won a lot of games in the regular season, won a lot of games in the postseason as a member of the 49ers. He was a good quarterback in San Francisco. What he does anywhere else doesn't take away from the fact that he was a good quarterback for the 49ers. Yeah, he had some issues with turning the ball over. Nobody ever said that he didn't. I used to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo as being an experience watching him. It'd be like I wrote one time where it was like going over to the amusement park across the parking lot and getting on a roller coaster. That's watching Jimmy Garoppolo. You're like this throughout the course of a game, right? You're up, you're down, you're turning sideways, you're losing, you're winning. It's just it's crazy, right? And then you watch Brock Purdy play, and it's just a different situation. He doesn't turn the ball over as much. Again, just three interceptions since taking over. He has a couple of lost fumbles, but really not a big deal. Texas Niner says that Major League Baseball gives wins and losses to pitchers. They do, but they also get pitchers in baseball also get no decisions. So, if they lose a game, but it's not the pitcher's fault because they've already taken them out and somebody else is on there, right? So it's a little bit different kind of a deal for a quarterback. Like for example, Jimmy Garoppolo started the game against the Miami Dolphins. He played one period, not even one period. He played one series, scored 3 points. He gets credit for the win in that game, although Brock Purdy played almost the entire game and helped the 49ers come back from behind to win. So it's it's whatever. I do feel like if you don't have a good quarterback, you're not going to win in the NFL. Just plain and simple. Look at the 49ers, what they've been through here in San Francisco, with these guys, right? They won a lot of games with Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy. Everybody else, not so much. And you can go throughout the NFL landscape and see those teams that don't have quarterbacks that are struggling because they don't have the quarterback position figured out. And you can find teams that are winning. It's generally because they have the quarterback stuff. And there's always some guys that you can always throw around there. But what that whole argument, I come back to the whole quarterback wins argument. I always come back to this. If you don't like a quarterback, then quarterback wins, and that quarter, especially if you don't like a quarterback that's winning a lot or you don't think he's very good, it doesn't matter if he's winning games or not. You're still going to think he's not good, and you're going to say quarterback wins don't matter. If you really like a quarterback and he throws the ball really great, and he does all kinds of really interesting things, gets the ball down the field and that kind of stuff, but he's not winning, you're going to say, quarterback wins don't matter. It's not his fault that they're losing. Although, there's always an aspect to the game where you can go through and you can find some misses from those quarterbacks. But, one thing that I've always said is that a quarterback never wins on their own. They just don't. Joe Montana had great groups around him. Brock Purdy has a great group around him here. Steve Young had a great group around him when he won the Super Bowl in '94. Same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo throughout the time that he was here. No quarterback in the NFL has ever won the Super Bowl by themselves. They've always had some help. Even last year, Patrick Mahomes, they didn't have the best offense around him, right? But they won the game. But you got to remember, if it wasn't for a defensive touchdown and a punt return down into the 5-yard line, they might not win that game. That's 14 points in a game that was really tight at the end. So all it is when it comes to quarterback play is make the plays that are there. Don't turn the ball over, and you're going to win at a high rate. And that's what Brock Purdy's doing. He gets the ball where it needs to be. The 49ers, 24 explosive plays through the first 8 weeks of the season, or first 3 weeks of the season, excuse me. That's 8 explosive plays on average per game. That's a run of 10+ yards or a throw of 20+ in terms of yards gained. So, the 49ers themselves are a very explosive team, doing a very good job of stopping explosives on defense. And I just look at this overall and I say, the 49ers are a really good team. I think there's a possibility that Brock Purdy can get to that 11-0 record that would get him the NFL record in terms of wins to start the season. There's a couple of tough games in there, and it starts on Sunday with the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals coming in here at 1-2, lost to Washington, lost to the Giants, but they come back, they beat the Cowboys. They had a 20-point lead at one point over the Giants. They were right there against Washington, if not for some turnovers. They're going to provide a tough challenge for this 49ers team, and they need to go out, the 49ers need to go out and play like they're capable. If they go out there and they just kind of throw their athletic supporters onto the field and think they're going to win this game, it's not going to happen. They're going to have to go out and play their best to go ahead and get this win on Sunday. So we'll get into all that more as we go down the road. Lots of fun things to talk about. But again, the 49ers injury report today: DEEBO Samuel out due to a rib and knee injuries. Juwan Jennings out with a shin. Dre Greenlaw out with an ankle. Ambry Thomas limited with his knee injury. Brandon Ayuk limited with the shoulder in a blue non-contact jersey. Demetrius Flanagan-Fells out or limited also with an ankle. So there you go. There you have it. There is your 49ers practice report from Levi Stadium on this Wednesday as the 49ers begin preparations for their Week 4 matchup with the Arizona Cardinals. Do me a favor if you can. I want to say thanks for everybody who watched the show. If you guys can hit that like button for me. After you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and then also make sure you turn on your notifications. Turn on the notifications will make sure that you don't miss any of the updates right here on Inside the 49ers as the season goes along. I promise you're not going to want to miss those. And then also, you know what? Like I always say, take it for what it's worth. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Keep it locked in here to the channel for more updates as we go through. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to y'all soon. Take care, everyone. Have a good rest of your Wednesday.